Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to another Wild Rift video. And in today's video, just in today's video, I am gonna blow your mind, okay? I'm gonna blow your mind about Sona, because Sona, I was wrong. I was wrong about Sona. I'm just straight up gonna say it. Sona is, at the very least, an S tier support. I would put her in the S plus tier. I picked up Sona, like, guys, believe it or not, this is serious. I picked up Sona 5 days ago, and I just became a challenger player, playing Sona half of my games, basically. Half of my games is Sona. And it's funny, like, I picked up Sona like 5 days ago, and I'm already a top 76 Sona. By the way, Trotos, who is the #1 Sona, gave me advice on the champion too. So this video, is going to be a lot of his advice as well. And then Keys as well, who's a pro player support who plays a lot of Sona too, also gave advice. And me, who got absolutely insanely good about Sona, is going to teach you right there how to dominate the game on this champion. And guys, just like, I don't want to say it that Sona is S plus tier, but it is. It's so stupid because I always put Sona in the C tier, B tier. Like, how stupid was I? Because I never really understood what Sona was truly about, right? Like, the only thing that I thought about Sona is, yeah, she's the brain dead healing champion, and all she does is she just heals in the late game. No, that's not all she does, guys. That is not all she does, and I'll show you in this game. So in the beginning part, I'm gonna show you guys how to build Sona. There's timestamps in the description to skip to the build, to skip to the gameplay immediately. So okay, this is my opinion on the Sona build. This worked for me very, very well. So let me explain it to you. First item, always an Archangel Staff. I've seen some Sonas not go for it, but always go for it. It's like the best item to go for. It gives you a lot of ability power. It gives you like unlimited mana pretty much. In the late game, you're not really going to struggle with mana anymore. You can pretty much spam your abilities. You start off with the Sapphire Crystal. You have to be able to stack the mana already from the beginning, and then you build it into an Archangel Staff. Right here, I always wanted to replace this, but I never did. I don't know why. You never go for Redemption. You actually always go for Locket. So, like, this is standard every game. These two things right here, this is standard every single game. Archangel Staff, Locket, Enchant. And the boots that you go for is Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Now listen to me. Is the enemy full attack damage? You will still go for Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Does the enemy have a load of CC? If they have a Twisted Fate, an Ash, etc., etc., you still go for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity. That is the thing about Sona. These boots, absolute must buy. If the enemy has CC, you just have to stay behind your allies. You have to position properly. If the enemy is full attack damage, just don't take damage. Or stay safe enough that you don't die. There is another thing that you can do on Sona, which I will get into in the video, which is a huge thing. So yeah, next up, it's situational. It already starts to become situational. There's 3 items that you can go for as your second item. Only 3. First one, Ardent Sensor. Does your team have a lot of attack damage champions that would really benefit from the passive of the Ardent Sensor, which gives attack speed and bonus magic damage for 6 seconds? Basically permanent, because you're constantly going to be healing them. It's a permanent buff, so you're permanently going to be buffing your allies with depending on your level, between 10 and 30% attack speed, and then the bonus magic damage as well. So as I said, if your team has like a Darius top lane and Irelia mid lane, and they're doing very well, and your Evelynn jungle is not doing that well, then you get the Ardent Sensor to buff those allies. The beauty of this item is you will give the buff to everyone, because Sona has a team-wide heal which buffs everyone. And this is why Sona is broken in the late game, because items like the Ardent Sensor will constantly get applied to everyone in your team. So does your team have a lot of mages, or just really champions that benefit a lot from ability power and ability haste? Then you go for the Staff of Flowing Water. Like, if you have a Corki or something, and an Evelynn jungle and Orianna mid lane, Corki does indeed benefit a lot from the Ardent Sensor. But in that case, Staff of Flowing Waters would be infinitely better to go for as your second item. Reason is because you're going to be giving ability power to him and to the allies that use ability power. Secondly, ability haste. 20 ability haste is amazing. And then, of course, Sona herself gains these stats as well. And that's right, these stats will be permanent because you're constantly healing your team, so you're permanently getting these stats. So on top of the 65 ability haste and on top of the 65 ability power and the 20 ability haste that this item provides, Sona is permanently going to be getting an extra 20 ability haste and between 20 and 40 ability power depending on your level. So that is why this is a huge item for Sona, and like whenever you can, you have to buy this item. The reason that I do have the Ardent Sensor before it though is just because Ardent Sensor is such a good item. It's just so good generally because you're generally going to have much more attack damage champions than ability power champions. The other item that you can go for is the Athene's Unholy Grail. So I've been testing out a lot of these builds. Athene's Unholy Grail is, I would say, a must-buy if you're up against like Katarina and Evelyn and Diana, you know. If you're up against these mage assassins or Gragas, it's not a must-buy against just mages. No, because you can out-heal them. So for example, if you're up against a Ziggs, don't go for the Athene's Unholy Grail just to get 40 magic resist to deal with the Ziggs. No, trust me, like you don't need it against the Ziggs. Sona is the hardest counter to Ziggs. I'll get more to it during the gameplay about why, but you don't need it. The only games you need the Athenes as your second item is, as I said, up against those mage assassins, so they cannot blow you up as like so they can't one-shot you. That's when you get the Athene's Unholy Grail. Athene's is also very good if you like how do you say it? Like if you have a top laner or an ADC who's fighting on his own all the time, Athene's is going to be amazing because it gives so much more bonus healing to one ally. But I don't really recommend this item fully after testing out a lot of builds because like Sona just really benefits from Ardent Sensor and Staff of Flowing Water. Like, you know, another item that I wouldn't recommend on Sona is Harmonic Echo because Sona just really benefits from these two items because these items, they give a buff to whoever you heal or shield. And Sona's second ability heals everyone in a very large radius. So you don't need even more healing. You need the buffs because it perfectly complements Sona's kit, Staff of Flowing Waters or the Ardent Sensor. As I said, only in very certain cases you go for the Athenes as your second item. And the reason that I'm being so strict about it is because in most games, you're really not going to get any further than 2 items, you know, maybe 3. Like half of your games is not going to get more than 2 items. That's why the first 2 items is generally going to be the only items that you're going to be getting. So as I said, always Archangel Staff and then either a Staff of Flowing Water or Ardent Sensor or Athene's Unholy Grail if you have to deal with magic damage or mage assassins. Third item, always a Rabadon's Death Cap. Also, just always do it. It's pretty easy to build Sona really if you think about it. And then fourth item, if you don't have it already, get the Ardent Sensor or you get the Staff of Flowing Water. And then as your fifth item, if you really want more damage and if it comes to this point, you get a Lich Bane. You can get a Lich Bane on Sona. Or of course the Athene's Unholy Grail, but Lich Bane is gonna make you deal so much damage. You're gonna destroy squishies with the Lich Bane. Like it's crazy. Late game Sona is just game over. Okay, so about the runes. Always Airy. You know, you're constantly using Airy every time you heal, every time you use your first ability, your third ability, every ability you use utilizes Airy, so you get the Airy. Second item, second rune, you go for Gathering Storm. I have been experimenting with Champion rune, but no, it's just not worth it. Like, it's just not worth it. It really isn't. Gathering Storm in the late game gives you so much ability power, and then especially if you reach the 3 items, when you get the Rabadon's Death Cap, it gets increased by another 40%, which is absolutely huge. Like basically you have a whole nother item when you have a Gathering Storm. So Gathering Storm is amazing for Sona. Another reason why Gathering Storm is amazing is because Sona is a support, and supports just don't get a lot of stats. That is why Gathering Storm becomes more valuable, especially compared to Champion, which only gives you 8. Well, it gives you 8%, but if you die, you lose half of it. Third one, you go for Conditioning. Not a Hunter Titan. I see some Sonas build Hunter Titan, but don't do it. You just don't need it. You really don't need it. You need to be avoiding CC. Like maybe if you're up against a Twisted Fate who goes for Rapid Fire Cannon and just constantly focuses you out, you could choose to go for Hunter Titan. But keep in mind, Conditioning is just such a good rune on Sona. Such a good rune. Because it makes you very You're very squishy, don't get me wrong, you're very squishy, but with the Seraph's Embrace, which builds out of the Archangel Staff, you're going to be getting that shield. And then if you have conditioning as well, it's going to give you bonus armor and magic resist. You have your ultimate to survive, your second ability, which gives you a barrier, and the passive, which exhausts the enemy. I'll get more into this later. Fourth rune, you go for Mana Flow Band because you need the mana. So for your spells, you go for Flash and Exhaust, or Flash and Heal if you want to have a bit of an easier time in the early game. And now I actually just quickly want to go over Sona's passive just to show you what I'm going to be talking about, because this is such an important thing. Let me just move my camera real quick. Okay, so using Sona's abilities gives you a stack. You'll see this in the gameplay. When you get 3 stacks, so when you've used 3 abilities, it doesn't matter in which order, your next attack is empowered, a next basic attack. It deals additional magic damage. Okay, that's the first thing. That's the first thing to understand. So you'll see it under your bar when it shows. So you have 3 abilities, the blue one, the green one, and the purple one. And of course the ultimate, but the ultimate doesn't count. So if the last ability that you used is the blue one, your next basic attack deals a lot of damage. It deals a lot of damage, like the whole purpose of it is to deal damage. The second one, if you use the healing aura as your third one, or like your 4th, 5th, 6th one, doesn't matter, just as your last one. This is the important one. Your next basic attack reduces damage dealt by the target by 25% plus 4% of your ability power. In the late game, when you get the Rabadon's Death Cap, you're going to have 400 ability power. This means that you're going to be reducing the enemy's damage by 41% for 3 seconds. And now the beauty about this is, the cooldowns of your first, second, and third ability in the mid-late game is going to be lower than 3 seconds. What does this mean? You can permanently reduce the enemy's damage by that 40% in the late game. And it gets crazier because if you get further into the late game, it's going to be 45, 50%. So if the enemy has a very strong champion, you can constantly harass them with this passive. Constantly. It is absolutely toxic. It's literally like an internal exhaust with a 3-second cooldown, or 2-second cooldown even. And then the third one, if you use the purple aura, which is the third one, which gives movement speed, let me show you. Your next basic attack slows the enemy by 40% plus 4% scaling. Yet again, this is pretty big. This one is very good to catch an enemy, but you're mostly going to be using this one, the second one. We'll get to this during the gameplay yet again. So that is it about the build and all this. So now let's get into the gameplay. Alright, on to the gameplay. That was a long ass build part, but I just want to say, if you missed out the build part, you really should watch this one. Like, I don't say this I almost never really say this, but this one is super important because, guys, as I said, I'm just going to change the game for you right now. I'm going to absolutely change the game for you. And I think Sona is going to become meta after this video. As I said, you know, Throttles, I saw him in a few of my ranked matches playing Sona. You know, I was like, okay, he's doing it pretty well. And actually, funny story on how I picked up Sona. I was in a ranked match 5 days ago or something. One of my allies picked Sona. I picked Karma. And like the Sona told me, I can play Karma if you want to. And he wanted to swap with me. I just accepted. And that was my very first time playing Sona. Don't ask me why I would do that in a ranked match. That's how I roll. But I did it. And I absolutely hard carried that game while not even knowing what I was doing. Now, after a while, you know, I always played Sona just by really clicking my abilities and everything like that. After a while, I was like, I just started asking questions to Throttles, right? Like, how do you play Sona? What are the most important things to do? I think he really only told me one thing besides all of my other questions. The one thing that he told me is, Hells, you should know about the exhaust passive. I was like, what? The exhaust passive? What do you mean? And then he told me about it. I explained it during the build part, so I'm not gonna fully get into it. That's why I told you to, if you really want to get good at this champion, go back to the build part and watch it. The exhaust passive is broken. The damage reduction is broken. And I'll talk a little bit more about it during the late game, but now let's first talk about early game Sona, because although early game Sona sucks, your healing is practically useless because the healing is only like 50 at level 2. By the way, as you can see, I reached level 3. I did not put points in my third ability. I actually put another one in my second ability. Reason is because I don't use my third ability at level 3, so you don't need it. Just put another point on your second ability because it's gonna double the healing. It's gonna bring up the healing from 30 to like 50. So don't upgrade your third ability when you're level 3. Upgrade your second ability again. You can actually also put a point in your first ability, so you can put 2 points in your first ability if you want to. Do this if you're really winning the harassing game. Like here we are winning the harassing game, but then the reason that you wouldn't do it is because then you're going to be delaying the power spike of your second ability, the healing, because you're constantly going to be a level behind up until you reach level up until you reach level 8. So that's why, like, I don't really like it. So I just upgrade my second ability whenever I can. So as you can see, even though Sona sucks in the early game, it's not a reason for you to be afraid. Like, it's not a reason for you to be afraid. So, you know, you have to understand what Sona can do. And what can Sona do in the early game? Poke a lot. But there is one danger with playing Sona in the early game, but also in the late game, really. Oh, that was a perfect stun, actually. Come on, nice. And yeah, that one danger is getting caught out. Okay, that is the one big thing about Sona that can get you killed, and that is really the like getting caught out. And her early game is the only weakness that she has, and besides, everything is just broken. So to understand how far you can go with Sona, you have to understand your matchup. I'm up against a Thresh. Obviously, if the Thresh hooks me, I'm just dead, right? Like I am just dead. He's gonna force my flash, or I'm just dead. So I have to avoid that. That is one thing that I have to avoid. So if you look at the enemy's composition, right? Like what are the dangers? This is the approach that you need to take as a Sona. If we look at the enemy's composition, enemies have a Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate is very dangerous for Sona because of his gold card. You know, it stuns me. It's very dangerous. Examples of champions that are not dangerous at all is Ziggs, because Ziggs only pokes, I heal, right? That is a champion that's not scary. Another champion that's not scary would be something like a Nunu. Nunu is not scary. He cannot one-shot me. Another champion that is not scary would be something like Kha'Zix even. I can debuff Kha'Zix. So now, as you can see, I got the green lines under me. My next basic attack will reduce the damage of the enemy for 3 seconds. Look, boom. Thresh's damage is now reduced by like 20 or 28% for 3 seconds. Look, now, boom. Fiora actually blocked it, by the way. She blocked it with her Y post. But that is how what you have to do during teamfight. So early game, Sona sucks. So right now, I'm just not gonna be strong. My heals are not gonna be strong. My debuff is not gonna be strong. Just nothing is gonna be strong for now. As you can see, like, I'm just really not providing that much value right now. But you don't have to. Early game Sona doesn't have to. Heal, second ability, saved his ass. 1 second. Oh, by the way, guys, I'm doing a skin giveaway this month, giving away 8 legendary skins. Put a comment under the video to let me know, not to let me know, that's the next thing, to enter the giveaway. Also, I'm playing support now on my main account, and I am challenger. I'm making a ton of support videos. I just want to hear from you guys which supports you want to see in the comments. I already have a lot of support videos ready. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of sneak peeks. Thresh, Galio, Alistar, Braum, who do I have ready as well? Yumi. I should have a Yumi video as well. I was working on Leona, but I don't have Leona yet. What else? What else do I have? I have another one. I know that I have another one. Basically, I have a lot of support videos. So if you really wanna see one, let me know in the comments and I'll review it. I'll see. And my nose is itching. God, so stupid. I have this allergy of how do you say it in English? Of dust. I have a dust allergy, and like, you know, there's dust on, there's this thing on my wall which is literally filled with dust. So sometimes it starts itching on my nose and I start sneezing like crazy, and it's happening right now during the video, which is kind of stupid. Okay, what was I gonna say? So as a Sona, you shouldn't be afraid. Like, I really want to highlight how you shouldn't be afraid as a Sona. And the one reason, well, there's two reasons for that. No, actually, there's three reasons for that. Okay, so there's three reasons. First reason is Seraph's Embrace. Seraph's, when you finish the Seraph's Embrace, as you can see, I currently have 393 stacks of Tear of Goddess. When I get to 700 with the Seraph's Embrace, it's gonna give me a shield when I get under 35% health, effectively giving me more health. So if you do get bursted down, the shield is gonna save your ass. Second reason that you shouldn't be afraid is your exhaust passive, which you get after using your second ability. This thing is so absolutely incredible because it just reduces the enemy's damage, depending on how far you are into the game, by 25 up to like 60% for 3 seconds. Like, if in the late game a Jax jumps on you, just make sure you avoid his third ability, because his third ability is gonna dodge it. You basic attack the Jax with the exhaust passive, you will just reduce his damage by half. By half. And then you also have an exhaust if you run the exhaust. So you reduce his damage by 40% again. And then after that, you reduce it by half again. Which means you are effectively twice as tanky as you normally are. So you see how you shouldn't be afraid as a Sona. Just make sure, as a Sona really, you have to make sure you're buffing as many allies as you can. And another thing to understand about Sona is her abilities, all of her abilities have 2 effects except for her third ability. So the first ability, like you can see there is a range to it, right? Wait. So here, you see there is a range to the third ability and to the first ability and the second ability, sorry. There is a range. When your allies step in the range, they get an effect. So with your first ability, which is this ability, if your allies step within your aura, that's what it's called, the aura around you, their next basic attack is going to do bonus damage. If they step within your second ability, they're going to get a shield. Now, your first and second ability also have a bigger range, which does another thing. You see the range is very big on some things. So the big range on your first ability deals damage to 2 enemies. It just deals damage. And the big range of your second ability heals your allies. As you can see, boom, that's what the range does. And whenever they step into my aura, they get the shield. And then your third ability gives an aura that gives bonus movement speed, which is pretty nice. But yeah, it's mostly about your first and second ability. You constantly want to be using these abilities, your first and second, just constantly use them. So right here, as you can see, I don't have my exhaust passive, unfortunately. I am now using my exhaust passive on the Ezreal, and he deals no damage. Look, no damage. And he's dead. You see? This is how you constantly want to be approaching every single fight. Exhaust one of the enemies, and what I mean with exhaust is your exhaust passive. Constantly exhaust a high damage enemy. For example, Katarina goes in, boom, exhaust passive. Katarina uses her ultimate, boom, you use your ultimate. That's a tip that I got from Keys as well. Like, just that's what you can do against these types of champions. Diana goes in and she tries to ultimate, boom, exhaust passive. Look, Kha'Zix tries to go in, I should just exhaust him if I can. If he goes in super far, I just use the exhaust passive. And as you'll see in this game, like 90% of the 90% of the buffed attacks that I use are the exhaust attacks. 90%. Because this one is the most valuable by far. The first, when you use your first ability, the blue one, and a basic attack, it deals bonus damage. But this one is not really worth it up until you get like 3 items. Only when you get 3 items, that one becomes worth. And then the empowered passive with your third ability, which is the purple ability, is only worth when you're chasing an enemy. So like right here, if a Fiora dives us, I'll make sure I heal and then exhaust. You constantly have to pay attention to this. Sona is not a brain dead champion, guys. Like, I honestly thought this as well. So, you know, don't feel bad if you thought it as well. But you really have to be able to use your passive correctly with Sona to get the most out of her. And if you do, it's crazy how much value she provides. Crazy. Like, I honestly don't even understand how Sona is not broken. Like, look, I just saved my Jace. Look at how I just saved my Jace right there. How crazy is it that a support can just do that so easily? Oh, and when you reach the late game, all your team has to do is stay close to you. Stay close to you, and your abilities are just gonna buff and heal all of them. And So let me give you a bit of drafting advice with Sona, okay? A bit of drafting advice. Sona is pretty much an instant win if you're up against poke champions. So champions like the Ziggs. However, actually there is a however. Varus, who is a poke champion, actually hard counters Sona, and the reason is his ultimate. So now let me get into champions that counter Sona, which is actually more important, which is champions that have abilities, or just they have a way to like lock you down. Examples are Twisted Fate, Jinx, and the reason why I'm saying Jinx is because of a Rocket plus Storm Razor plus her second ability plus the third ability root, which can root you in place. Other example would be Malphite with his ultimate, Amumu with his ultimate. You know, these are champions that are very strong into Sona because they can lock you in one place and kill you. Jhin is also a big counter to Sona because of his root and his ultimate and just his big damage. So you have to be careful against those champions, right? Like that, those are really the only type of champions that you have to be careful against. Otherwise, you just win. Like, you just win. I don't know what my Evelyn is doing. Yeah, I'm just that as well, probably. Yeah, I cannot save him. Like, this is too much. Even though we've reached mid-game, I cannot save him. I'm dead as well, actually. I don't have my exhaust passive, unfortunately. I didn't save it. I should have saved my exhaust passive for the Twisted Fate there. So here, look, I'm not using a basic attack, second ability, and then I exhaust the Ezreal. That is only when I use it. Look, second ability, exhaust Fiora. Now Fiora doesn't do any damage anymore, and I kill her. I do die though, because even the Seraph's Embrace cannot save me from 3 enemies. But that was a big mistake by the Evelyn. Like, I'm telling him to be careful, bro. Like, what are you doing? You know, you just gotta be a bit careful there. You cannot go in like that. You just cannot go in like that. Man, that Ezreal is dealing a lot of damage though, but Sona hard counters Ezreal, guys. Like, Ezreal is another example of those champions. He has absolutely no way to kill me. He only has poking, and I just out-heal him. I will just out-heal him very simply, and that is why this was a good draft for Sona. Thresh, like, even though Thresh can hook you and everything like that, Sona is actually a hard counter to Thresh too, because of her ultimate and everything like that. Like, Sona shouldn't get caught out by a Thresh. Your ultimate allows you to stun the Thresh when he goes in, so you just do well into those types of champions. Also, Sona's third ability is quite underrated. Reason is, it gives you and your teammates movement speed, so it allows you to dodge out abilities more easily. So when we're up against that Ezreal, I can use my third ability and just buff the movement speed of all of my teammates. You see, I buff their movement speed and they can dodge Ezreal's shots a bit more easily. There is just so many things about Sona, and oh, by the way, you get a locket. Always get a locket. And the thing about getting a locket on Sona, don't try to time it perfectly. This is a very important lesson that I want to give you guys. Do not, and I repeat, do not try to time your locket perfectly. Just use it. Just use it. Reason that I'm saying, like, you see, I just used it. I did get caught, however, because no one engaged. This was partly my fault, because I shouldn't be the front line. Like, this is the problem with Sona. If you don't stay behind your team, or if no one of your teammates engages, you get destroyed like that. You see, like, I just got destroyed. I died, I got stunned, and I died. So you can see I got pretty mad here, because, like, even though it was kind of my mistake, my team needs to engage. My Jace, my Evelyn needs to go in, and then Galio needs to ult. Like, I shouldn't be the one standing in front. Anyone else should be. Like, you are the last one to do that as a Sona. Like, you have to stay way behind your teammates. Way behind your teammates. So this is actually a major drawback. They got the dragon, they killed all of us, Kha'Zix got fat. I'm still telling my team, like, guys, this is such a free win. Because I'm Sona. I am Sona. Just no one wins against the Sona. And it's like, I literally got to challenge your rank playing Sona and solo queue. That's why I can tell you confidently that this champion is broken. And if you just listen to my advice right here, practice her yourself, and really pay attention to that passive of hers and build her properly, absolutely broken. Like, absolutely broken. By the way, guys, give the video a like if you enjoyed it. I would really appreciate it. It would help a lot. I worked for a very long time on these videos. I played 60 Sona games before making my very first Sona video. So as I said, you know, I would really appreciate it if you could show support for the video. You know, if you enjoyed it, do it. So yeah, let's look at this fight again. Beautiful ultimate, just cancelling out the engage from Kha'Zix. One of our teammates died. It's okay. I am Sona. Look. So I'm just moving to my team, constantly healing them up, constantly giving them shields. Boom, boom, boom. Or he's exhausted. Boom. And we win the fight. You see? Then we move to also, Baron is always free when you have a Sona. Because Sona out-heals the Baron damage. You out-heal the Baron damage. So, what is my team doing? Come on. What is Evelyn and Galio doing? Can they just come to the Baron? This is so annoying. Like, they're taking Sona. But look, like, no one takes any damage when I'm attacking the... Or when we're attacking the Baron. Because I just out-heal the Baron. That's also the beauty of Sona, by the way. Like, look at this. Look at this. How crazy is this champion with a team-wide heal like this? Just how absolutely crazy is it? Oh, and we catch him, I stun him, easy peasy kill. Sona's stun is actually also quite underrated, the ultimate. Like, sure, the stun duration is not very long, but it's good. Like, Sona already has so many tools at her disposal, and to have an ultimate that also stuns the enemy is very good. But I don't really recommend you to use this ultimate as a way to just stun the enemy, because the actual stun is not long enough, right? Like, a very good thing about the ultimate is cancelling out enemies from doing something. For example, Tristana tries to jump away, boom, you stun. For example, Kha'Zix wants to jump on your team, boom, you stun him. For example, I actually had another really good example, but I forgot about it. Oh, come on, what was my next example? Katarina ults. You use your ultimate to cancel it out. These are better ways to use your ultimate. I'm not saying that you always have to. Like, of course, this stun is still good, but you have to keep in mind, the stun is not very long. Like, it's not very long, and if the enemy has a lot of tenacity, they're gonna run out of it instantly, basically. So the stun is just not very long. Right here, boom. Instantly fully healed my Lucian right back up. I am not gonna allow Ezreal to do any damage, by the way. If he gets close to my team, I just exhaust him. Like, Ezreal is essentially useless here. The player is good, like, he's playing really well, I can tell, but he just cannot do anything against Sona. That's the problem. Here, my team gets caught, I flash out, of course, I exhaust the Ezreal, and he's dead. Now I have another exhaust up. If someone goes in, they get exhausted. And I have my locket. Oh yeah, I was gonna tell you why to just use your locket. Reason is because Sona already has enough sustain. You don't need to just perfectly time it. Just use it. Like, if in the beginning of the fight, just use the locket. And the reason why is to just block out the initial burst damage. Because after that, your second ability provides barriers too. So just block the initial burst damage. So for example, you're up against a Malphite. Just use your locket when a fight happens, because Malphite is gonna use his ultimate at some point. What the locket is gonna do is just gonna block all of that damage, and then your second ability on top of that is gonna give another barrier, and it's gonna heal up allies. And I can promise you right now, no one will get one shot in that case. Unless you're very behind and the Malphite is full AP, of course there is exceptions. But what I'm trying to say, 95% of the cases, this works. What I'm saying to you right now, it works. If you just play it correctly. The thing is though, your team has to understand this as well, right? Like, your team has to understand how to play around the Sona. You have to position yourself behind them. They have to go in and they have to protect you. They have to protect you as a Sona. Another thing about Sona, by the way, there is this common thing that supports should never steal kills. With Sona, it's actually the opposite. When you're playing Sona, try to steal as many kills as you can, because a fat Sona means game over. So when you're playing Sona, I actually also take away farm from my teammates whenever I can. Of course, not in a toxic way, but like when there is a mid lane wave and no one is around, I just push the wave myself as a Sona. Whenever you can, push a wave, take a kill, just take whatever you can as a Sona. You can use the gold. Like, a fat Sona is stronger than a fat AD carry. So like right now, look, my Lucian gets caught. I just heal him right back up and he's full HP again. You see? 1, 2, 3, boom, full HP. I can buy a Rabadon's death cap, but it seems like I won't have time to do that. Look, locket when they go in. Exactly when they go in, I just use a locket and no one dies. Look, all of my teammates goes, boom, heal. No one is gonna die anymore. No one. I heal them constantly. Like, enemies just cannot do anything. Boom, boom. I used my third ability on the Twisted Fate because the third ability passive, the purple one, to slow him because I wanted to catch him. Otherwise, you never use it. Only when you want to catch an enemy, as I said. So like right now, I'm saving him as well, I guess. Boom, boom. Fiora cannot kill me. She's exhausted now. Look, she's exhausted. She cannot kill me. She cannot do anything. It's just crazy, guys. It's just crazy how broken Sona is. Every single game I just get MVP over MVP over MVP. That's the beauty of this champion. So now I'm transferring it to you guys as well, and I'm hoping to see you guys get some MVPs too. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let's see, this was probably another MVP game that I had. Oh, this was actually the game that got me to Challenger. That's funny. Yeah, this was the game that got me to Challenger. Wow. That's pretty nice. Yeah, as you can see, like MVP Sona, you'll do a lot of damage too. Like, look, 15,000 damage as well as a Sona. So she really has it all. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope this video really opened your eyes up on the support role and on Sona especially. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Bye bye.